home of the authentic Warriors fan.
Time now for Sports and the Law. The family of the man who fell to his death at Turner Field in Atlanta last August is suing the Braves in Major League Baseball. The suit claims that the railing over which the man fell was too low and about 1 foot below industry standard. And so with that, that's how we begin our Sports and the Law segment. Steve Moskowitz, our Sports and the Law expert. This is a horrible story. Anyone losing their life just going to a ball game. He stood up to boo a player. He lost his balance, fell down from one of the upper decks. But Steve, I'll ask the tough question of how reasonable is it, this family's claim that they're making?
Again, I feel for the man. It's a terrible thing. However, the rail was 4 inches higher than required. And the problem is, if they put it up higher, it's at eye level for most people, so it blocks the game. So you have competing issues here. It's like automobiles are very dangerous. They kill lots of people every day, but we all still drive. So we have the competing interest of, do we basically ruin the view for everybody for the occasional tragic event? It's a real balancing act, like so many other things.
About those tragic events since 1969, 24 people have died in falls at ballparks, but 3 in Atlanta. Does this show a pattern? Maybe they should have addressed this early in Atlanta?
Well, again, how many automobile accidents do we have in Atlanta at that time? Yes, it's a tragedy, but you have competing interests. Jim, do you want your view blocked at the ball game? Because, I'm sorry, occasionally someone has an accident.
If they change the railing height, would that be an admission of guilt at all?
No, there's a specific provision of law that when you correct something, let's go back to Old English law, that you're not, because otherwise people would never fix anything for that fear.
All right, let's move to our second story on this one. The domestic violence case against Johnny Manziel will be heard by a Dallas grand jury. Manziel is accused of forcing his ex-girlfriend into a car and then hitting her. He'd be charged with a misdemeanor, domestic violence, which carries a maximum sentence of 1 year in jail and a $4,000 fine in Dallas, Texas. So the grand jury part of this, what does it tell us that they're moving this to the grand jury?
They're moving it. Now, traditionally, there's a very high probability that a grand jury will indict anybody. They have a record where not everybody, but the majority, they do indict. The fact that he's been indicted doesn't mean he's guilty. It just means that they have found that there's probable cause, and then the trial or the settlement moves forward.
How likely is it that Johnny Manziel or his ex-girlfriend testify to the grand jury?
With a grand jury, they would probably want the girlfriend to testify. That's going to be a, does he make a settlement with her or not, where all of a sudden, like some of the other cases, she doesn't want to talk. With him, he does not have to testify, because you never have to testify against yourself in a criminal action unless they would give him immunity. In his type of case, they're not. So the answer is he most probably wouldn't. A few guys want to and want to tell their story. Most guys say, I'm not talking.
Could he just go in and say, yes, it happened, I'm sorry, and hope that he gets a lesser sentence?
That's a confession, and that would not be what his lawyer would advise him.
Compensation for the girl, or would that be a separate issue?
My guess is there's going to be a civil settlement confidentiality clause, and all of a sudden she doesn't want to testify.
Final one is a tricky one. Monday, the NFL won a court ruling upholding an earlier decision that will allow a settlement between the league and former players in a class action lawsuit. The settlement, which could cost the NFL $1 billion over 65 years, will have varying levels of compensation for retired players depending on certain levels of criteria. This is concussions again, Steve. We go over this, it seems like, a couple of times every month. What type of criteria are they talking about?
Okay, now first of all, boo-hoo for the NFL. This is pocket change.
Really?
For them. Well, I mean, again, over 65 years, they're making $13 billion a year. Come on. So what we have here, though, is a typical settlement when you have one party that has way more money than the other party, and the aggrieved party really needs the money now. So basically what the settlement is, you get some money now instead of waiting for years of litigation, and taking the risk you won't get anything at all or less, and you give up the right to go ahead and try to get more.
I have a little less than 30 seconds. Does this mean the NFL's off the hook? We're not going to hear about this story anymore. They've decided it. It's over.
Except for the guys that opted out. They can individually sue.
Ah, still can't get into it. I see you've got your Warrior tie on.
This is a Warriors tie in support of them, and like you guys don't shave when you play, this is the tie I'm going to wear on every show to the end of it.
Until they win it all. Steve Moskowitz, our Sports and the Law expert. Thanks for watching Sports Talk Live. Sportsnet Central coming your way next. Good night, everyone.